Imagine yourselves in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. The sound of hammers echoes through the hot afternoon air. Above the head of a dying man, a wooden plaque is being nailed into place. It is not a simple sign. It is a legal act of the Roman Empire. But there is something on that plaque that terrified the chief priests, something that drove them to run to Pontius Pilate and demand an immediate change. Pilate answered with a chilling sentence, "What I have written, I have written." Today, in this video, we will not speak only about faith. We will speak about a real archaeological relic preserved in the heart of Rome that hides a linguistic anomaly impossible for a forger to explain, and a secret code that reveals the forbidden name of God at the very moment of the crucifixion. If you think that sign was merely Pilate's insult against the Jews, prepare yourselves. The truth is far more shocking than anything you have ever been told. Yes, there is an archaeological piece of evidence that anyone can see. It is called the Titulus Crucis. Many people think the relics of the Passion vanished into the darkness of the centuries, but part of the original plaque survived and is still kept today in the Basilica of Santa Croce in Gerusalemme, in Rome. But here is the first mystery that will surprise you. If you look at that relic, you will notice something absurd, almost inexplicable. The Greek and Latin inscriptions are written backward, from right to left, following the normal writing direction of Hebrew. Why would a medieval forger make such a bizarre and counterintuitive mistake? The answer takes us straight back to Pilate's praetorium on that dramatic Friday morning that changed history forever. We must understand the context clearly. Pilate did not want to condemn Jesus. He saw him as a harmless fanatic, or perhaps as a just man who deeply unsettled his soul. In order to humiliate the leaders of the Sanhedrin who had forced his hand, Pilate decided to use his legal authority for one final blow. He ordered the titulus to be prepared. According to Roman law, every man sentenced to death had to carry around his neck, or have carried before him by a herald, the reason for his condemnation, the formal statement of the charge. Pilate wrote with his own hand the words, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." He had it written in 3 languages: Hebrew, the language of religion; Latin, the language of imperial law; and Greek, the language of universal culture. But here something extraordinary happens. Pilate likely did not entrust the task to a trained Roman scribe, but to a local Jewish craftsman. This man, accustomed to writing Hebrew from right to left, made a unique transcription error. He wrote the Latin and Greek lines by reversing their direction. This detail is one of the most powerful signatures of authenticity in the world. No medieval forger would ever have thought to create a relic so difficult to read and so apparently wrong, unless it were the exact copy of a real and chaotic event. But now, let us pause for a moment, because we must uncover the mystery hidden behind what everyone already knows. If you look at any crucifix in our churches, you will see 4 letters, INRI. But do you know what they really mean? Many assume the original sign looked like that, but the reality is much deeper. INRI is only the Latin acronym for Iesus Nazarenus Rex Iudiorum. It is a shortened form that Christian art adopted for convenience. And yet the Gospel of John is explicit. Pilate had the phrase written out in full in 3 languages. And here we arrive at the point that made the priests of Jerusalem tremble. If the Latin expressed the legal charge, it was what Pilate wrote in Hebrew that changed everything. In Hebrew, the full phrase, "Jesus the Nazarene and the King of the Jews," is written, Yeshua ha-Nazareh w'melech ha-Yehudim. Now pay very close attention to the initials of those 4 Hebrew words, Yod, He, Wa, He. In one word, YHWH, the sacred tetragrammaton, the unpronounceable name of God, the name that only the high priest could pronounce once a year in the secrecy of the temple. Imagine the shock. Above the head of the man they considered a blasphemer, Pilate had placed the very name of the Almighty. The cross was no longer merely an execution stake for a condemned man. It had become an altar where the name of God shone before the entire holy city. The priests were not merely arguing over a royal title when they ran to Pilate. They were staring at the name of God, towering above the man they had just condemned. When they said, "Do not write the King of the Jews," but that he said, "I am the King of the Jews," they were desperately trying to erase that divine acrostic. But Pilate, with his famous answer, sealed that decree for eternity. The name of God was there, and there it would remain. But how did this piece of wood reach us? This is where St. Helena enters the story, the mother of Emperor Constantine. In AD 325, Helena set out for Jerusalem with a mission: to recover the sites of the Passion that had been buried beneath pagan temples. While digging in the area of Golgotha, Helena found a cistern where the 3 crosses had been thrown. Beside them, set apart, there was a wooden plaque. Helena brought part of this relic back to Rome and had a basilica built to preserve it. For centuries, the relic remained sealed inside a hidden niche until, in 1492, during restoration work, a lead box containing the Titulus Crucis was discovered. It had remained protected for nearly 1,500 years, waiting to speak again to the world. Today, many skeptics dismiss it as legend, but science has wanted to investigate. The renowned papyrologist Carsten Peter Thiede carefully analyzed the relic in Rome. Thiede was not a man easily swayed by suggestion. By examining the shape of the Greek and Latin letters, he reached a startling conclusion. The style of the writing belonged precisely to the 1st century AD. It was the kind of handwriting typically used by officials of the imperial age. In addition, botanical analysis confirmed that the relic is made of Mediterranean walnut wood, consistent with the flora of Judea. Although a carbon-14 test dated it to the Middle Ages, many experts challenge that result because of the extensive contamination the wood endured over the centuries from candle smoke and restoration work. But the linguistic evidence, that strange right-to-left writing, remains the signature of an event no forger could have conceived with such historical precision. Let us reflect on the power of those 3 languages. Why did Pilate choose them? Hebrew was the language of revelation. Jesus was being proclaimed as the fulfillment of God's promises. Latin was the language of power and law. Jesus was being declared king before the state. Greek was the language of culture and philosophy. Jesus was being announced to all the pagan nations. On that piece of wood, the gospel was being preached at the same time to faith, to reason, and to law. That piece of wood was, in a sense, the first written Bible, a universal proclamation that the world would never again be able to erase, not even through death. As we read those words, we must remember that Jesus himself looked at them. In the midst of the unbearable pain of the nails, every time he lifted his eyes for a breath of air, he saw that title. He knew that the world, through Pilate, was finally speaking the truth. That title was his earthly crown. It was not a hidden message. It was a public proclamation. Thousands of pilgrims who had come for Passover read that name and that title. Many returned to their distant nations carrying in their hearts this troubling thought. We saw a man die, and above him it was written that he was God. That sign became the first seed of a faith that would conquer the empire. What does the Titulus Crucis mean for us today? It is not merely an archaeological object. It is the signature of God upon the flesh of human history. It tells us that the Passion of Christ is not a symbolic myth, but a real event, documented by the Romans and preserved through time. Every time we look at a crucifix bearing the letters INRI, we remember that behind those letters stands the unpronounceable name of God, crying out his love for us. Pilate thought he was writing an accusation, but he wrote the greatest declaration of love of all time. If this journey into the mystery of the Titulus Crucis has touched your soul, I invite you not to let it simply pass by. Let us unite now in one act of faith in the comments. I ask you to write this phrase, a prayer that echoes through the centuries, the same truth that Pilate unknowingly engraved upon that sacred wood. Jesus, my King and my God, reign in my heart. Let this be our witness to the world. If you liked this video, subscribe to discover more evidence of our faith. May God bless all of us.